Hi everybody, I'm dolltr and I am an electronic music performer and producer. When I'm not doing my artist stuff, I am a music technologist and a playback engineer and an educator, among other several hats that I wear. This January, I participated in Jamuary, which is kind of like a daily challenge where every day you do something musical and then share about it online. Today, I wanted to do some lightning breakdowns of my 31 performances from the month of January, not just for my electronic music students who I've asked to watch this video as part of their homework, but hopefully for everyone else who came along with me on my Jamuary journey as well. My hope is that this video will shed a little bit of light on what actually goes into a live electronic performance. So I hope you have some nice hot chocolate or a nice drink wherever you are, and here we go. So this first song is Hide and Seek by Imogen Heap. And what I'm doing in this one is pretty straightforward. I'm using Push to play Vocal Synth, which is a vocal synthesis plugin by iZotope. And specifically, it's Vocal Synth 2. Then after that, I've got some drums that I programmed come in that accompany me as I continue doing the vocal synth stuff. And I am also having a clean signal of my vocal in addition to the vocal synthesizer or vocoder. So it's kind of layered on. And my vocal itself has a little bit of auto-tune on it, and it integrates a little bit better with a lot of the vocal layers. So that's why I did that. The second song is Addicted to a Memory by Zedd featuring Bahari. This one was a really fun one for me. I don't really get to do this tune live often because it involves so many moving parts. But in the first section, I'm looping guitar using Push. So my electric guitar is being looped and I'm controlling when the loop stops and starts using Push. And then I'm picking up my bass and keeping the guitar loop going, but I'm still playing the bass. I also just did something pretty interesting, which is I put Push into a mode called user mode, and that lets me use some of its controls as custom controls instead of just integrating with Ableton Live, which is the software that I'm using in this performance. So in user mode, I have a couple of things set up, and I also have a pedal in Push, like a foot pedal or a sustain pedal, that's helping me transition into the next section that you see after this. So right here, I hit the pedal then and it moved into the next part. This next song is Years of War by Porter Robinson, who just released a new song, which you might also have a version for me coming soon. Hint, hint. But in this first section, I'm singing and doing some triggers, one-shots on Push. And after that, I've got an arpeggiated synth that's kind of going over the top of all the other instrumental parts as I keep singing. So it's just moving along and panning a little bit also. And then I pick up my wind controller, which is a Silphio by Audio Instruments, and I've named mine Sylvie. So I'm playing Sylvie, and she's doing the main synth lead line in this tune. Cool, this next tune is 1111 by Taeyeon, who is a Korean singer whose music I love a lot. And in this one, I'm playing bass live, and it's pretty straightforward. I'm just singing, playing bass, and using Push for some more straightforward piano parts that I'm layering on top. And I enjoy this one because I don't do more acoustic unplugged stuff too often, so it was a nice opportunity to do that and also do a K-pop song that I really enjoyed because I love K-pop. This next song is Dreamcatcher by Edlan featuring Ella Noel. I love this tune so much. It's probably one of my favorite drum and bass liquid tunes. And in this, I'm actually using something that's called a leap motion, and that's a type of controller that is able to detect your gestures based on infrared detection, if I'm not wrong. So I programmed it so that when I have my hands in certain directions, I'm controlling things like reverb, controlling things like reverb on my vocals or delay on my vocals. And then I'm just using Push for some sample triggering. And in this next part, I've also got the gesture control doing a little bit of a filter at the end of this part. So cool. This next tune is called Make It Better. It is a dolltr original that I released at the beginning of the year on January the 3rd. But this one is fun. I got to kind of put my quote-unquote holy trinity of things together, and that's like a keyboard plus push plus wind controller. So if I had to choose like 3 things that I took with me to any show, it would probably be those 3 things. I love using all of them in tandem together, in addition to singing as well, and using my voice. So yeah, pretty straightforward for this. This tune is called Save Me. It's by BTS. It's another Korean tune. This one was fun because I did a quick bass loop at the beginning, which is what you just saw, and then I did a little bit of a quick change where I put down my bass and switched over to playing some drums using a function called repeat on push, which basically says I can hold down a note and have that repeat for as many divisions as I want. And again, I've got Silphio coming up and playing the lead whistle, sine wave-like type of lead synth, which I enjoyed making. Cool, this next tune is called Off the Grid. It's by EDX and Amba Shepherd. One of my favorite future house tunes, and also one that I've done several times live, but this was the first time that I done this on push, and also used another gestural controller called the hot hand. So I was using a hot hand for filters and some other effects. What you saw just now was also me live looping drums, and right now I'm using some of the controls on push to change the levels and filters on certain instruments. This is me triggering some one-shot samples that are vocal chops. And in the next part, I'm going to be playing a plucked part with one hand and using my other hand to control the filter on that sound. This next song is Kill This Love by Blackpink. And in this particular tune, I was using Silphio again for the wind part, but I had a couple of settings such that when I raised it higher so that it was more in like a trumpet position, I would get a certain timbre or a certain tone out of the synth that I programmed. And then after that, I would kind of put Silphio down and keep going with my rap in Korean, triggering some vocal samples as well as percussion for the rest of the song. And this next song is again another dolltr original. It's called Back to You, which is one of many singles from my upcoming album. Most of my releases that I've put out are from my upcoming album that's going to be released in April. But what you saw again just now was hot hand controlling some filters and a synth riser. Then now I'm playing some other synths on push, and I'm going to switch over to keys in a moment for the lead synth part. Yay! Cool. This next song is called Gotta Go, or 벌써 12시 by chungha, who's another Korean singer. And this is like a strictly push one. I was doing the main fluty lead synth on push and triggering some vocal samples now. And right now I have push in a drum sample layout, but in something that's called 64 pad mode. So that lets me use every single pad as a trigger. And then now I'm doing some chords on push. Cool. And this next tune is Firefly. It's by masa, featuring Neo. Another favorite of mine that I like to do a lot in live shows, especially in like my hybrid DJ types of sets. And yeah, doing some chord work on push, and right now doing some delay in either ear if you're listening in headphones. And then using Silphio again for the lead part while I've got some background vocals behind me, kind of supporting whatever I've been doing. This next tune is Pop Stars by KDA. I loved this tune when it came out, and it's also one of my favorite songs to do live. In this particular instance, I'm using vocal synth, again, the vocal synthesizer, to do chords on push, which then layer on top with the vocals I'm doing. And then I'm using repeat on push again to do some of the more intricate like hi-hat patterns that are going along. And then some more triggers for percussion with push. Yeah. while I rap. Cool. This tune is Chemistry. It's a dolltr original. That's one of my drum and bass tunes. I love making drum and bass. But yeah, I'm using push to do some chords in this case while I'm singing, and then in the next section we'll go into some drum looping. And in this case, I've set up push so that I have repeat on and I'm looping some hi-hats, and after that I am also layering on some additional clap and snare sounds to go on top of the existing hi-hat loop. And I've just switched over to a piano sound and gonna play some piano live on push as well. Dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun. Cool. This tune was the first of several Jamuaries that I did while I was in California, so not at home. But this is Rushing Back by Flume featuring Vera Blue. This is usually one that I also always do on push. I'm not singing in this one because I was staying at a location where I didn't want to really disturb the rest of the people who were also in the same vicinity. So yeah, finger drumming and playing leads on push. Now I'm gonna do the really big synth pad that comes in at the end of Rushing Back. And if I did this live, I would also be singing whatever vocals you hear. This is Lower by Amber and Luna from the Korean girl group FX. I love both of them individually as artists and also together as their group. And this one I have my Q Neo, which is by Keith Macmillan Instruments. It's my other controller that I love a lot too. It's very small, very lightweight. In this case, I'm using it for some vocal samples and also some effects, and I'm also playing stuff on push. This next one is Particle Arts by Virtual Self. And it's an edit that I use a lot for live shows, so it omits a couple of the sections, but it has the key parts of it, including the main synth part that leads up to the very first drop. So that's what I'm doing here, and I'm using a control that I set up on push to control the mix of sounds that I have. So I'm mixing between two different sounds and controlling how much of each volume is in either of the parts when I twist the knob from left to right. So that was pretty cool. And this one's really fun to shed on push. So yeah, I really enjoy it. This is Spectrum by Zedd and Matthew Koma. I have Q Neo again, and this time I'm using some of its faders to do some processing also, like filters and reverb. I'm also using the pads in a pretty unique way in that instead of playing chords in the key form or anything, I'm using each of the pads to page through different chord changes. And then I'm using push to do a couple of the lead synth parts that go on top as an additional layer on top of whatever chord parts are happening, and then a pitch bend up on push at the end. This is Key, also by Virtual Self. I'm doing some piano parts on push, and yeah, this one was pretty straightforward. I enjoy it a lot as well. This is one that I also play live, and I like doing because of like the different loops. And yep, using push to switch through a couple of parameters and Q Neo to do some effects. And then I just did a patch change to the main synth that also starts off the song but then returns later as Key goes along. This is Troglodyte by Matzo. Which is probably one of my favorites to do. I love the feel in this song. I've also done it a lot in live shows, usually on push as well. And I'm using Q Neo as kind of a secondary controller to have a separate set of sounds set up in addition to whatever I'm doing on push with the main synth. This is Illusion, another one by Zedd, and featuring Echo Smith. I like doing this one a lot whenever I demonstrate certain things actually on push, like certain capabilities that push has, in particular looping. Like this is a really great song to kind of show off a little bit of the MIDI looping in that push can offer. So I just looped the main synth and then I looped some of these drums now, In a moment, I'm gonna loop even more things. I believe I'm gonna loop some extra percussion, and then there's like a slightly obnoxious buzzing sound that happens. Now I'm back at home. This is January by Disclosure and Jamie Woon, and I really wanted to do this on the 22nd of January because that's a part of the lyrics. But yeah, so right now, I'm gonna start looping some chords on push. And it ends up being pretty straightforward to play because once you get the certain shape of a chord, something that Disclosure does a lot is that they transpose chord shapes. So once you get the first shape of the chord, you can like transpose that pretty easily in different positions across push. And then I'm doing some more effects processing with the knobs on top of push while the loop keeps going. This is another dolltr original. It's called Proud. Doing some drum triggering and using repeat so that I can do a slow build up and increase the frequency of things. Then using push to play the lead synth of the song. Before I switch over to some drums and use repeat again to have some hi-hats going and change up their patterns as the song goes along. This is So Close by noted Felix Jane, Georgia Koo, Captain Cuts. It's also another one of my favorites to do live in DJ-ish settings. The cool part about this one is that I'm actually looping my vocal now as we speak, and then in the next section, my vocal continues to loop. But I don't have to sing at the same time, so in that case I can focus more on doing the chords on push, and that frees me up a little bit more to do the instrumental sections and also take a breath before I start singing again in the next section, and I do more drum and percussion things using Q Neo that I have on the side, where I play some like hats and shakers. This is Violetta by Icebrun. It's another K-pop song. I'm using Silphio to play the lead synth, and I had so much fun doing the bass synth part for this song. It's like one of my favorite like future-y types of plucky basses that I love. And then now I have a selection again of samples in 64 pad mode on push. They're organized into like vocal samples and then some other percussion samples that I'm using to play at different points in the song. This is Mumbai Power by Skrillex and Beam, but it's a dolltr vocal edit. So this is actually the version that I perform again in my live shows because in addition to the part that Beam raps in the second half of the song, I also basically wrote a top line for the first half of the song. So that's what I'm singing. And in a minute I'll be doing some synth stuff. And this was cool because I actually did a patch where half of push, the lower half was the chords that I was playing, and then the top half was that lead solo synth part. So it was like a split. This is another dolltr original. It's called Skylight. I've pulled out my flute for this one. I love playing flute. I'm a classically trained flute and piano player. So I just looped the flute part. And now I'm moving on to some guitar action. This is the Yamaha Sonogenic guitar. So again, I'm using it to do the lead synth part, which is again what I usually play live as well, but sometimes on a normal keyboard if I don't have a guitar with me, and then doing some transitional effects at the end. This next tune is DNA. It's another BTS tune, and again I used my flute, but interestingly enough, my flute had some special effects on it at the beginning. I used basically an octave plugin called Pitch Proof, which is free. So I highly encourage that you check it out, and that's what's making it go an octave above, which is the actual pitch that the whistles happen in the original song that BTS does. And now I'm sending my vocal to a delay that's like repeating after each phrase. This tune is White Noise by Disclosure and Aluna George, one of my Disclosure favorites again. And I've got some backing vocals accompanying me in the background. Now what I just did was loop Just Gonna Get My Back, and then I started processing it with delays. And right now I set this particular synth up so that I had a pitch bend up of a specific amount. Then would let me jump straight into looping the bass part of the song, which you're hearing now, and the loop's gonna end. And then I'm free to use my hands to not play the loop anymore, but tweak some of the parameters like timbre and stuff. So this tune is That Feeling. It is another dolltr original. I just did some hi-hat looping that was a little frenetic. But yeah, right now I'm also going to start playing solfeo in a little bit, and it's gonna play the lead synth of my tune, while the rest of the loops keep going underneath. I've got the hi-hat loop and also a high synth part that's looping as a pedal, all while solfeo is going. And this last tune is Bumblebee by Zedd and Botnik. Had so much fun doing this. I love counterpoint, and I love a lot of Zedd's writing because it involves counterpoint. So this was a really good chance for me to kind of like revisit my classical chops and all the times that I played Bach growing up. But it was also really fun to do the sound design for this and the programming. So what you see below that I was pressing with my foot is something that I set up so that every time I press it, it does like a pitch drop that's also in the original song. So that way I don't have to use my hands to do that, since both of my hands are occupied playing the parts. And now jumping straight to some sample triggering with plucked sounds that are also in the original. Woo! So that was 31 performances that I just did in the last month. Looking back, even though it was challenging, I'm really glad that I chose to do Jamuary and that I used it to work on some skills that I have been wanting to develop more for a long time. Thank you again to everyone who also tagged along with me this Jamuary, especially if you were also doing Jamuary. Congratulations on finishing! I hope this video managed to shed some light on certain things that I do with my keyboards and controllers and stuff like that. So thank you for watching. This has been dolltr, and I will see you soon. dolltr.